everyone, I'm Garrett Monroe, Sell-Side Director here at Calder Capital. I am joined by Scott Nicholson, a senior advisor on our team, and the goal of today's Sell-Side update is to give everyone a first-hand look of what an advisor does at Calder and their role, and learn a little bit more about Scott Nicholson here. So Scott, you want to give a little introduction on yourself and we can go from there?
Sure. Scott Nicholson. I've been with Calder since not quite from the beginning, but close to the beginning. And we were just a small firm, and I've loved watching the growth, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. So the goal of the questions today, or the topics, is a lot of people want to know what people at Calder, specifically advisors, are doing on a day-by-day basis. So I've created just five simple topics that might allow everyone to understand a little bit more about Scott and what an advisor does at Calder. So Scott, can you tell us a bit about your role currently at Calder, your experience since the beginning, and what you like most about the firm?
My role at Calder is to really take businesses that come into Calder to market and see if we can find buyers. My background, I've been in the financial services business for 40 years now. Started out in retail banking. After about 5 years, I tried to sell life insurance for a couple years, and that's about the hardest thing that was ever decided to do as a job. So I got a job in the mortgage business, and for 33 years I wrote mortgages. Absolutely loved it until the housing crisis came, and then it became really a whole different deal, and liked it less. I was in a business referral group at the end of my career in mortgage business, and met Max Fryer, who started Calder. We became close friends, traveled together, and then he said one day, "Why don't you try the M&A world?" And that was about 8.5 years ago now. And I, 8.5 years later, I do it about full time, and I love every minute of it.
Awesome. What has been, so there's a lot of fun things that we get to see day by day working with business owners, as well as working in a very fast-moving, fast-paced environment. What has been your most memorable, proudest accomplishment while working here?
I was able to help a couple that owned a relatively large kitchen cabinet warehouse and they were also a design center. Roger especially was one of the most emotional clients I've had in 8.5 years. He was wonderful, wonderful people. He was extremely cautious when we met. He said, "I only want to sell this to another family, and they have to buy it." So we went to market. We had a lot of interest. We ended up having 5 LOIs. 4 of the LOIs were from families like he asked for, and 1 was from a private equity group. Roger told me there's no way he's going to talk to a private equity group, and I met with the equity group first and said, "Raj, I really think you need to at least talk with them." So we brought them in. Roger agreed to meet with them. We had a long talk. Roger and Sandy both liked them, and it turned out they accepted the private equity group's offer. The thing that I'm really proud of is that I pushed for this to happen. Old Garrett here knows that was the fastest closing to this day that Calder has ever had. 58 days from the time we put it on the market to the time we closed. And the nicest thing is I still stay in touch with all the players, and that company is running very well. Roger and Sandy are very happy they sold it to the private equity group. The other cool part is I've stayed friends with Raj and Sandy on Facebook, and after they closed, they went traveling and they worked out together for 1,000 straight days together. And they traveled all around the country and saw all kinds of beautiful things and posted them all on Facebook. And I just smiled every day to know we were part of that experience. So that's what I think that's something to be proud of.
That was a cool experience for everyone, because I remember when we did the valuation for Roger. He was very emotional when he was going to decide whether he was going to move on or not.
I'm sure he was.
Assigned Scott. Scott took a while, Scott's charming usually on the first visit, but he bought into Scott. And I remember him being very scared of what the future was going to look like. And it went like that. The transaction happened. And I remember this was one of the first times, I think I was at the firm for like maybe 4 years at this point, and it was the first time I had seen someone like Scott, as well as our team, get invited to a personal family party after the closing happened. I mean, everyone goes to closing dinners and all that other stuff, but an actual party where employees and the buyer and you guys and everyone else was invited. So that was a really cool moment. Why do you enjoy working with business owners?
The biggest reason I enjoy it is most of them have great stories to tell about a couple of things. Number one, about their adventure in entrepreneurship and the way they put their business together and the experiences they've had and successes they've had. And most of them are pretty happy, successful people. And then the second one is most of them have great plans on what they want to do the rest of their life. And I just love hearing all those stories.
Yeah, that is a good part about what we're doing here at M&A. Outline a deal that you enjoyed working on outside of Starlight Kitchens.
Okay. So I worked on a deal that dealt with the natural gas that heats our homes in Michigan and this part of the country. So all that natural gas comes from the Gulf of Mexico, and it's sent up to Michigan. And the way it's done is with a gas line that starts from the Gulf of Mexico. They push it up to northern Michigan. There's a bunch of caverns that were emptied at one point of these gases. The gas line brings the gas up there, puts it in there in the summer, and then we take it back out during the winter and warm up all the houses in this part in our part of the country. So from the Gulf of Mexico, there are pumping stations every 60 to 90 miles that push the gas up, that come through this gas line to get it up to Michigan. And every one of those pumping stations have between 2 and 12 engines that are just like a car engine, but they're about 10 times the size of a car engine. And just like car engines, they've got a bunch of parts on them, and the parts wear out over time. And Sean's company was a replacement part, aftermarket replacement part company for those engines. And those parts, hardly anybody else did exactly what Sean's company did, and what he did was very lucrative. Did it out of his basement, never had an employee, made a pile of money. Now, when we met with him, he didn't think his company was worth anything. And it turns out we did an evaluation, and his company was relatively valuable, and he put a big smile on his face. So we went to market. Once again, we got 8 really strong LOIs, and Sean was just overwhelmed by the situation. And it turns out one of them was a young man, probably about 40 years old, who had traveled all over the world in the gas and oil industry, which I thought, what's the chance you're going to find a guy that traveled all over the world in the gas and oil industry for this offering? And so the really cool thing about that was that I asked Sean, after we did the valuation, exactly what he wanted out of the transaction. He wanted 2 things. He gave me a dollar amount, and he said, I don't want to have to do a really difficult transition. Mm-hmm. So Paul offered Sean a very simple transition. He did not write the absolute highest offer, but a very good offer. It turned out the offer was within like dollars of exactly what Sean wanted once our commission was paid. He still had all his money left over. And Sean said, let's do that. And we closed a few months later. Today Sean's been paid back all of his seller note, and the company is just excelling. And Sean's just ecstatic. I still talk to him once in a while.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. So taking aside working with business owners, a lot of business owners want to get to know who we are as people. And part of what we do is build trust to make sure that the owners that we work with know that when we are advising them, we have their best interests in mind. But part of it goes back to, can you relate to them? What do you like to do outside of work on a day-by-day basis?
So outside of work on a day-to-day basis, I love hanging out with my family. I had 3 boys, live all over the country. I love traveling and seeing them. I love hanging out with my wife, traveling, but we don't do the same kind of traveling. So we both pick certain times of the year, and we both travel on our own. I love traveling all over the world and hiking. And then the one last thing I love to do is take long walks with my silly golden retriever Baxter.
He's a lucky dog, isn't he?
I also like to golf a little bit and listen to live music and just keep a smile on my face and enjoy life.
Awesome. We appreciate everyone's time getting to know Scott Nicholson, one of our senior advisors here at Calder Capital. Next episode, we'll be diving into a seller's perspective and how sellers work with Calder Capital. See you next time. If you enjoy learning more about Calder Capital and our sell-side advisory practice, you can contact or find us on the details listed on the screen. We look forward to hearing from you soon.